Welcome back to Nick Talks, and you can probably guess, but I am English, which means I live in the UK, which means I live in Europe, or at least just about. And most of the cartoons I watch are made by Americans, but sometimes they set their cartoons in Europe, or they set them in a time period where they have royal families. And as an English person, I have a very different experience watching these than an American, because I know what a royal family is supposed to be like, and I actually learn a little bit about what Europe looks like. Now, a few examples just to start us off before I get into the main video. So let's look at Sofia the First. Lots of kids know about this show, you've probably heard at least the intro. Obviously, the first issue with Sofia the First is the name of the show itself, because the names for royal family members don't come with numbers unless there have been multiple of the same person and they're a current ruling monarch. For example, currently in England we have Charles III. This only happens because we've had two previous Charleses in our royal family who have been the reigning monarch. And additionally, at the time of Charles I's reign, he wasn't called Charles I, he was called King Charles. So Sophia the First wouldn't be called that, because A, she's a princess, not a queen, and B, she's the first one, so that's not how that works. Now, this is kind of acceptable though, because it's set in some kind of Disney princess world, but it at least used the naming strategy. Also, obviously, the king would not marry a random peasant, because last time that happened in the UK, the king abdicated. So the whole premise of the show is very weird. Anyway, onto a specific example, because obviously I've been watching Tangled the series, and it comes with its fair share of problems too. Partly because it's written by someone who works under Disney, and Disney doesn't understand how this works, and partly because most of the writing staff left partway through production. But there are a lot of issues with how this show works with royal families, and it's supposed to be Europe, I'm pretty sure, because the map at some point shows Europe, except for the fact that the show is supposed to be set in Germany, and they zoom out and it suggests they're in France. But we'll gloss over that, maybe, and talk about the other issues that this show has that I notice as an Englishman. So one of the issues is the location. I pointed out that they're supposed to be in Germany, not France, but also the island of Corona, named after the Italian word for crown by the way, is an island located off of the mainland, right? So that suggests that if it's in Germany, it's in the north of Germany. But in Season 2, they travel away from that island further into the mainland, and apparently they travel for a whole year. Not only is this travel time ridiculous, because if you look at Google Maps' walking distance times, go check it out yourself, but it does not take a year to walk that far. But anyway, the directions on this suggest that the Dark Kingdom, their destination, if we change the amount of time it took them to get there, is probably somewhere like Czechia, Austria, Switzerland, or Poland. Now, you might be thinking, why are you talking about this? Because it recontextualises some of the actions in the show. If the Dark Kingdom is one of these other countries, and the characters from it are therefore, let's say, Polish, that means that when in the blizzard comes in Season 1, and the castle staff push out Varian into the blizzard, despite the fact he's a child looking for his parent in a natural disaster, it kind of comes off as racist. And this isn't something you get if you don't understand what Europe looks like, but his dad definitely came from another country. So this is just, it seems a bit racist to me, and they don't ever address it. So a few other issues, and these ones relate to the monarchy. So in Season 3, Rapunzel's parents are unable to rule, and she takes over. But she takes over as queen, despite the fact her parents are still alive. That's not how the naming strategy works. We have an example in the UK's history, And this example is George the Fourth, who did not rule as king, he ruled as Prince Regent, because that's how the naming system works. So Rapunzel in season 3 would be Princess Regent, reigning princess. But they didn't get the memo on that. In one of the episodes, in season 1, a court session is held in the palace main room with the king as the judge. And if you were from the UK and you've done history, you might know about something called the Magna Carta from 1215, which is a long time ago. And in this, basically, noblemen got very annoyed at the king for holding incredibly unjust trials and banned him from holding them. And basically, if that was broken, the country went into civil war. So after that, kings learnt not to do that. So basically what I'm saying is a king would not hold the whole trial himself. That's not how this works. You've seen Europe, you get quite a few rebellions if you do things like this. Another thing the king wouldn't do is go himself to Varian's house during Secret of the Sunjum. Watching this, it makes no sense because they've sent the entire royal family to a dangerous place where they might die or not come back. Who's gonna rule the country after that? What kind of decision making is this? And another thing that doesn't make sense and wouldn't happen if this was written by Europeans is the languages, because every single poster is written in English in this show, despite the location either being France or Germany, and they wouldn't be writing in English. And I know it's not just, because it's easy for the animators to write, because some of the writing, especially in Varian's scenes, look at Cassandra's Revenge, is a mix between English, French and German, so I'm not entirely sure what they're doing here. Did Great Britain take over Germany in this alternate universe? So essentially, this has been like a case study of a show written by Americans that does not make sense to me as a European or as an Englishman. If they'd just consulted Google, perhaps, it would make a bit more sense to me. But I guess maybe Americans don't feel this way. Of course I won't know that, so if you are American and you've watched this show, let me know how you feel about these things in the comments. Fellow Europeans, do you side with me? Do you think that the people writing this show should have googled a few more things before they've made the final script? In any case, this has been Nick Talks TV, and I look forward to making more videos and sharing my ideas, as well as hearing your own. Until then, thanks for watching, I guess.